Whether you are a beginner in meditation or have a regular practice, I want to share some tips for getting into the void or deepening your meditation practice. Let's dive in. Hey there and welcome. My name is Dr. Jessica. I'm a naturopathic doctor, acupuncturist, as well as a health coach. And I help clients better manage their stress and all the symptoms that come along with it. Things like insomnia, weight gain, brain fog, fatigue, etc., etc. And one of the methods that I use to do this is mindfulness or meditation. And in particular, I really love Dr. Joe Dispenza's method of meditation. So one of the things he talks about is getting into the void. And I often get questions about, well, what is the void? How do I get into it? In my understanding, it's a couple of things. One, it's entering into the quantum. If you are a follower of Dr. Joe's work, it's entering into that invisible field where everything is possible. It's also that state where we're changing our brain waves. We're generally going from that high beta brainwave state to alpha brainwaves, and in some cases, even theta and delta brainwave stages. And when we're able to change our brainwave pattern in this way, we often feel that we're kind of in the void, or we reach this really calm place where we're not having a lot of thoughts intruding upon our meditation. And it's that point where we're focusing on the nothing, the space that's all around us, the void, the blackness, whatever you want to call it. And so how do you get to this point is one of the questions that I get quite often from patients, clients, and even on some of the Dr. Joe meditation reviews that I do. I wanted to share some tips that have been personally helpful for me in getting into the void and staying in there and really starting to deepen my meditation practice. So let's dive in. So the first thing is to actually do a little bit of a brain dump beforehand. Or if you're familiar with Dr. Joe's work, he calls this kind of being in your think box. You know, you want to think about, okay, what is the goal of my meditation? What are the emotions I want to bring up? How do I want to feel? What do I want to focus on? What do I not want to focus on in my life? That way, when you sit down for your meditation, you're not thinking about this. It can be a little bit more effortless. And if you go to a Dr. Joe, a week-long event, he will often talk about, your think box versus your play box. Your play box being when you're in the meditation itself. And one of the things you do in the retreat is kind of turn to the person next to you, talk about, what did I do well? What do I want to repeat? If I could go again and have another meditation, what would I focus on? These are the things that I think about before going into my meditation. That way, it's a little bit easier to kind of slip into that sweet spot. Now, another tip that I use, and this one may sound simple, but it's really has been effective for me, is to really try to block out my environment. This includes things like wearing an eye mask. I'll use my noise canceling headphones if I can. I'll make the room nice and dark. And I'll make sure that I'm comfortable if I need a blanket or if I need to put on thicker clothing so that I can eliminate any other outside sensations that are coming in. And if you've meditated at all, you know how easy it is to get distracted by the fact that, I feel a cold breeze, or, I can hear somebody downstairs making noise. So doing whatever you can to eliminate these distractions is really going to help you. Another tip that I found that really helps me is to actually, as I'm sitting in the meditation, and thinking about the space or the space around us or the void or the nothing, is I actually pretend that I'm going to sleep, because naturally, when we go to sleep, what do? We don't really think of anything. We just drift off, and next thing you know, you're sleeping. Having that same sense of, I'm just going to sit here and relax. I'm going to close my eyes and just let my body rest. That tends to help me actually just kind of slip into that sweet spot, slip into the void. So give that a try. Maybe pretend like you're going to sleep. This, for some reason, also seems to stop the amount of thoughts that pop up as well. Another thing that has really helped me is to actually do a bit of yoga before my meditation. So before getting into Dr. Joe's types of meditations, I have been a practitioner of Ashtanga yoga, so 8-limbed yoga, which generally the idea behind why we're doing a lot of the movements is to really prepare your body and your mind to actually sit. So generally I would do yoga and then sit after that and have my meditation practice. And what I found for me, it does a few things. One, during the practice, I'm already focusing on my breath as well. So it's giving me a little bit of extra focus, and it's giving me kind of a window into concentrating, or a window into not having so many distractions. And then after practicing that for say 20-30 minutes is then usually a lot easier for me to sit and have my meditation practice without having my mind warring against me. The second thing that it does for me is actually help my body become more flexible so that I can actually sit, and I like to sit cross-legged on the floor, but I can actually sit comfortably without feeling any aches or pains. So if you haven't done so before, even something as simple as doing maybe 5 sun salutations and a few kind of closing postures and preparing your body and your mind to sit down might be helpful for you. So on top of this, I also like to do some sort of breath work. Now, again, before I found Dr. Joe and his specific type of breath work, I have done a number of different yogic style breathing exercises. And again, that's usually before I go into my meditation. So one that I really love that I find really helps kind of balance my nervous system and help me to relax is alternate nostril breathing, or Nadi Shodhana, and also a practice called Kalpati. In the full practice of this Kalpati breath, you're actually doing something very similar where you're holding and you're squeezing, just very similar to Dr. Joe's breathing technique as well. His breath called pulling the mind out of the body. Again, the sensation for me is very similar to doing Dr. Joe's breath as well. There's a sense of calmness that really comes after you exhale and after you release, and I just feel my nervous system really settling down after doing this type of breath work. And so again, that makes it a lot easier for me to kind of have this outward focus and being able to go into the void and finding, again, that sweet spot of me just really not thinking while doing my meditation. Another really key thing for me has been timing. Now, I know the general wisdom is that you want to get up and do it first thing in the morning because it's going to start your day off right. And sometimes that is true for me. But I've also found a lot of times that if I wait an hour or so, say I go to the gym or I'm able to do my yoga practice first, I find that I have less mental resistance. It's way easier for me to just sit down and do it. I'm able to slip into it versus something about first thing in the morning. And, I'm working on this, but I have, for me, an easier and I won't say better because there's no such thing as a bad meditation, but it's a little bit easier and quicker for me to slip into that sweet spot if I've given myself about an hour or so after waking. So experiment with the time that works for you. You may do better at night, you may be better during the day, or hey, you might be one of those morning people as well. So say now you've gotten into the void, now how do you stay there? So it's so easy to get pulled out by random thoughts that come up. So when I find myself chasing some thread that my brain has hooked onto, I'll go back to focusing on my breath. I'll even do the breath, Dr. Joe's breath again, just to get me right back on track. So if you find yourself constantly getting distracted, maybe give that a try. And the final thing I want to share is that it's 99% practice. You have to practice. You have to keep doing it. It's 99% practice, 1% theory. So once you learn the basis of kind of what to do in the meditation, just practice it and don't think about the outcome. Just practice it and keep going in your practice, and you will find eventually it's going to be a lot easier for you to slip into the void and to stay there. All right. I hope that this video was helpful, and if you have any questions, be sure to leave them down below. And if you enjoyed this video, why don't you check out this next one? All right. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.